What's up, everybody? We are still here. We're still alive. My name is Bryce. I am alongside Rick, and I'm also alongside Mike, and we are the Some Shit We Like crew, and this is Some Shit We Like episode number 349. It took 4,000 days to get from episode 348 to 349, something ridiculous like that. I don't know who even keeps track of time anymore. And just so everybody knows from the start, before I let anybody else talk, because I apparently will not shut the fuck up, this will probably be it will be primarily The Last of Us Part 2. That's it.
Review.
I fucked that up. That's all. That's
Spoiler
all
alert.
Discussion, yeah. And I fucked up.
Oh yeah.
What I was trying to say.
Spoiler alert. Like,
yeah.
Don't go any further if you have not finished the game.
Right. That's all we're talking about. We're not talking movies. We're not talking other games. I mean, who knows? You never fucking know with us. At some point, this might break down into masturbation talk, like you never know. But the goal is to talk about The Last of Us Part 2, which we have now all completed. I was the one that was lagging behind.
Bryce was the Last of Us to finish the game.
I was the Last of Us of the three of us.
Oh boy. All right. So I'm excited for this because we're all back together again. And how are we going to do this?
Clarify for the audience. We're not together. We are apart.
We are apart, but we're together
Rick
virtually.
Rick is in his respective home. Mike is in his respective home. I am in my dumpster. And we are all together recording for this episode. And it's audio only. So, yeah.
So I learned something, speaking of dumpster, I learned something very interesting. Here we go. We're degenerating already. Did you know that Oscar the Grouch is not homeless?
I learned that too because we listened to the same podcast.
That's right. Yeah. I can't even act like I heard it somewhere you didn't because you heard it too. Anyway, Oscar the Grouch is not homeless.
You have the floor. No, he's not.
He chooses to live in a trash can, right?
Did you ever ponder that though, Rick? Wonder if Oscar the Grouch is no, you didn't?
No.
Because some people wondered that. That became one of those questions that that right. People ask that really make you you want to think about it. But Mike, you take it. You keep going if you have more to say.
No, you just said dumpster and it made me think of Dagan's fucking 10-minute long filibuster about how he's not homeless.
Our source is somebody that actually works on the works for Sesame Street, has worked on the show, or is in that world, and he just loves trash, and he chooses to live in a trash can. He's got a bowling alley in there and all kinds of stuff. So don't make assumptions, based off of the size of the trash can. You don't know size does not always matter. Size does not always matter.
How you use it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
All right, that's enough of a tangent. We can how Rick brought up a good point. How are we going to tackle this? Like, are we just gonna ramble incoherently for an hour and a half or something, or we want to try and get some kind of structure behind it?
I mean, I feel like traditionally, whenever we review something, we generally go down the line and say our overall thoughts. I don't know if you guys want to do that. So we could do that first and then get into all the nitty gritty and titty.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Sounds good.
There's
Kitty.
Yeah. Barely.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah. Looks like maybe a reaction from some sort of bug bite, but you can call him that.
Rick, why don't you go first?
Me? Okay. I figured Bryce would go first since he was the first, since you just finished it, I mean.
No, that's probably why, I'm totally down for going last, but I'll do it.
Okay, so yeah, when this game came out, I was on furlough, so it came out at a perfect time for me. Because I pretty much played it pretty much every day, back to back for groups of 4 hours. And that was a lot of fun. That was really cool. I haven't done that in a while, playing it like back to back or in so many sittings for so many hours. So yeah, overall, I mean, I loved it. Like I thought they went in a direction that they went in a direction I didn't expect to go.
Mhm.
But for the most part, like I enjoyed the game. I enjoyed the gameplay. I enjoyed uh, the story, the characters, and their struggles, and the graphics are fucking amazing in this. Like,
Yeah. Oh,
it used the hell out of my
huge.
PlayStation 4. It was running like a jet engine every time I was playing it, but it looked beautiful. All the shadowing and like the shading for all the characters and the leaves and the grass, and like it was amazing. Like I was really in awe when I was playing it too, because just of how everything looked, and when you're at a cliff and you could just see, you know, the horizon and everything beyond it, like, or around it, you know, it's amazing. It like artistically really blew me away.
Rick, refresh me. You're an OG PlayStation 2, right? PS4?
Yeah.
You have
Yes. The
your same
launch.
you bought. Okay, gotcha.
I didn't buy it at launch, but the launch one.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Yours might not be considered a launch one because I think you bought yours around the same time as Mike, right? Like a year later or so.
Something like that. No, I don't think I bought it a
Yeah.
year
Yeah.
later.
Oh no, he got his before me.
Same time.
Yeah, I got it
he
like
got his
6
before me.
months or so after.
Okay, so maybe yours is a launch, but regardless, you're not on any sort of pro or whatever.
No, not at all.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, that's why it was howling at me throughout
Oh,
the
yeah,
entire game.
Yes, I am a launch PlayStation, and mine, you know, I feel like it's a little bit overblown. I mean, mine definitely,
For
you know,
sure.
would make some noise, and yes, there's times I'm like, oh wow, like it's really pumping, but then I wouldn't even hear it anymore. Maybe it was still happening, and I just would block it out. But I think just there was times where it was louder than others. I'm proud that my original PlayStation that I got the day the system came out is still running strong, and really I just have to, you know, get through Ghost of Tsushima, and then I think I'm good. I mean, well, I guess Cyberpunk 2, although that got pushed off kind of close to when PS5 comes out, or might come out, right? Didn't that get delayed also?
It got
I
pushed
believe,
to
to like November.
November 17th
Yeah, so that's gonna be
I think
you.
is the actual date.
Yeah,
That's
so you have
launch
to
day,
assume
bro.
that's gotta be, yeah. So it's just like, yeah. So at that point, I guess I'm gonna say Ghost of Tsushima, and that's it, unless I'm missing another game that I'm not thinking of. But yeah, so far it's still running strong. Sorry, Rick, keep
That's
talking about the graphics and stuff. But when you were talking about that and mentioning it
No,
being loud
yeah,
and noisy,
yeah,
I couldn't remember what system you had.
yeah. It's yeah. I really enjoyed the game. Uh, like I don't know how much more I can say about like
Just give us your summary of thoughts of, like, you know, again, obviously we're gonna hit all the details, you know,
Right.
later.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah.
yeah.
Overall,
Oh.
Google Maps view of how you felt about the video game.
Yeah, the game definitely made playing the game, like making decisions, and the decision making you know that goes throughout the entire game, and like the way it made me feel with the story, like it was so immersive. Not just with the story, but with, you know, how the game, how, you know, controlling the characters and then the gameplay. Like this is why I really love narrative games like these, because it feels like you're playing the movie yourself, and I absolutely love that. And you know, every corner you take, or every person you know take out or kill, you know, like the like when you have the, you know, your hands on the controller, like you got to make sure you press the right thing so you know you don't slip slip up or whatever, you know. And the way you dodge, like anytime I had any kind of interactions, whether with Ellie or Abby, like it felt real, like it, well, not like literally real, but you know what I mean, playing the game. Like every decision making you had to, you know, whether you want to take a person out or sneak by someone, like all your decisions mattered on how you did that, you know, and how you sneak around.
It definitely felt like there were consequences to everything you did.
Exactly. So
But let's not get it twisted. Like it's not like you really have a choice. You know what I mean? Like this isn't a Telltale game.
right. I'm just saying when you get to that level where you could either sneak around to avoid people. You know, are some people you can't avoid. You know,
Gotcha.
obviously, but like if you can be stealthy about it. You know, you can do that. And for the most part, like that's what I tried, but I, get caught and have to start fighting people or whatever. But like the tension was real. The tension was real when you're playing. And, yeah. And with the gameplay, like, I liked how, kind of just like in the first game, you pick up scrap metal and all that, and you build whatever set for either Ellie or Abby, and each of them have like their own specific things to construct, whether it's bombs or ammo or anything like that. Like I thought that was a really cool. The safe. Cracking safes, finding the passwords for the safe. There's some parts where, and I've mentioned this to Mike. I don't know if I mentioned this to you, Bryce, but like there was some parts where I couldn't find the passcode, so I'm like, "Fuck it, you know what? I'm gonna try to crack this this code, right?" Because I noticed when I did have the code, you could hear the click of when it hits the pin, so which is again great attention to detail in the game. So I actually went around when I didn't have the code, listening for that click, and sure enough, like I was able to just boom, crack it open and get whatever stuff was inside the safe.
That's really weird. I would have never guessed that would have been a thing. Like for me, if I couldn't figure out the code or whatever, I'm just like, okay, there's just something that I'm missing. So I just need to keep going. But I would have never thought that. So yeah, interesting. I mean, I can't say whether that's true or not, but I mean, that's your experience.
It is. It is true. Yeah, that's what I did twice.
One of the first things I noticed about the safes is that when you hit the right number, the click is a different noise.
Yeah.
Okay. I always found the code, so I think I just didn't I rapidly put them in, so I didn't listen long enough to be able to tell. I was just like, okay, this number, that number, this number, open.
Yeah, I really like that detail of that game because
it's crazy.
Yeah, and then when I opened it too, like I think the one I didn't have was the one for the boat. No, I had that one. I don't remember which one it was, but when I cracked it open, the character would say, "Oh, that actually worked." So, like again, like great attention to detail on that. Yeah, man, I enjoy the game so much, and it's so good. The different like the viewpoints of the stories between the characters are pretty interesting, and I'm just gonna stop here and let one of you guys go next for your overall thoughts.
You can take it.
All right. Yeah.
What's that?
I definitely feel like this game is the most polished game Naughty Dog has put out. I know there's a lot of people complaining about small graphical things that happen in the game. I had one where a wooden bat broke, like one of the melee broke, but it was still stuck to while I was walking, and you could hear it hitting the ground. So even though it was a glitch and the broken bat stayed stuck to her, you could still hear it interacting with everything in the world. So I'm going to go ahead and chalk that up to awesome design and not a glitch.
I had one glitch that was pretty funny.
Okay, let's do this then, because I had two glitches too. So go ahead, and then I'll say mine, then Mike can go on.
All right. Yeah. So my glitch was when I was in the boat, and you kind of had to like lift the gate open to have the boat go through. And I was trying to figure it out, and I couldn't. I think all you had to do was actually just pull it and then go through it. Or no. I think you had to push something and then had to land on that. I think. Either way, my glitch was I was trying to open it, and I left the boat like right up to the gate, and then I let go of I accidentally let go of the chain, and it came down on the boat. And the boat just like started flipping all over the room. It was just going everywhere. I was like, what the fuck did I just do? Because
Oh,
I was
that's weird.
thinking I lift the gate and the boat will kind of like go through and hold itself open, but instead it just started flipping the boat all over. I wish I screen recorded it because it was really funny.
That's pretty funny.
So yeah, I had two that I can remember, but two that stick out. Not a big deal. One of them was just kind of actually both sort of in the same area too. One of them is I'm coming up to a door that's unlocked that I could just go through, but as I approached the door, like Ellie kind of went through it almost like a ghost. And then she backed up, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then so the part towards the end where Abby is being held, and she gets to like the prisoners and stuff. I get to that cutscene where I start to get like, jumped. I'm in a fight with that woman, whoever the woman is, the guard or whatever the fuck. And there was no audio. Like there was like people were talking, but nothing was coming out, and like they were struggling in a fight, and like Andy and I are both looking at each other. It's like, why? I don't hear anything. Like what? This isn't right. This can't be right. And then after they kill her, and the prisoners like get out, and they're kind of looking at Ellie, and they're like, Ellie's like, where's Abby? And I noticed when she said it was really like low, like too low. And then I'm like, okay, wait, no, that's not right. So I basically so that happened. I had to exit the game and reopen the game. And then sure enough, all the audio came in full. So that was a weird one. Those are the two big ones that I could think of that happened. So that one was really weird. I was to the point where I almost messaged
that is weird.
You guys, and I was like, hey, is this part supposed to have very little audio? Like, did Ellie's eardrums get fucked up, like in the last fight that I was just in, and I just didn't know it? So, yeah.
Yeah. I'm telling you, man, it was like, I didn't know that the baseball bat, the shards of it were still stuck to Ellie at first. And I just kept hearing like the clanking of wood hitting something. And I was like, what is that? And then I came up to other, I think it was with the Seraphites, maybe. So I came up on somebody it was a fight either way. So I came up on somebody and I started doing melee stuff because I came up behind them, and I see the shard like stuck to like her. And so every time her arm would move or like swing or whatever, it would like move around, flop around and hit things. And it was still interacting with the environment. And I was like, well, this is fucked up. This is immersion breaking. So I had to quit out and reload the save. And I was like, I hope it's not too far back. And two, I hope this fixes it, because I don't know if I can finish the game hearing thunk, thunk, clank, 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 like the rest of the time. Because it would get faster as you were running. It was hilarious. I thought it was funny. But that was literally the only technical issue I had with the game. And when I say it's like the most polished thing Naughty Dog's put out, like the combat stuff was great. Like all the animations, like even when you're like doing stealth kills and choking somebody out, and you can see like your character's face, and instead of just being like a bland character model, like they had to pretend to choke somebody out during the mocap session to get that strain on the face, because like that is not something you can animate, because it just felt, and like to go what Rick was saying, it felt real, like
and like when you shoot them in the leg,
definitely was immersive,
and like blow off their arm, and they start crying and yelling and wailing, like Jesus Christ.
That's why you go for headshots, Rick. Headshots. But as far as like story and stuff, like some of the most effective storytelling, and I won't even just say in video games, because I think it transcends that. I think this is on par with a good book or a good movie, or just something that you really feel is well written. There's maybe one time where it kind of drags, but it's not in a bad way. Like it feels like, well, now you're gonna have to deal with this, and it purposely goes out of its way to make you uncomfortable. And I kind of reference this movie all the time when I talk about making someone feel uncomfortable. Like Drive did that. Like it was definitely like that style of like, we're gonna hang on this a little bit longer than we probably should, because you need to feel uncomfortable, and we want you to feel this moment a little bit more than just finishing this mission and moving forward in this video game. And dude, I really appreciate that. And I know it gets a lot of negativity for some of the story choices they made. And if you don't like the story choices, that's cool. You have every right to not like them. But you cannot say that it's not executed at a really fucking high level. Really high level. And like that's just how I feel coming out of this game all around, is like everything was executed at such a high level.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate when people use hyperbolic terms like, oh, this can transcend games, and like this could be the thing that people, video games are art too, man. Like, I'm not gonna say that stuff, but if I were somebody that did say that stuff, I'd probably say it about The Last of Us Part 2.
All right. Okay, so all of us, I'm pretty sure we all avoided all the spoiler stuff, right? Like before the game.
I saw nothing, yeah.
Yeah, so we all saw nothing. And I, which many people that have talked to me already know this, but I hadn't played the first game since it came out in 2013. So I, had decided, I kind of waffled with it for a little bit, but then not really though. Then I'm like, no, I'm going to do this. So I decided to play the first game, probably giving me about a week before part 2 came out, just to refresh myself on the story. And I ended up, sometimes life happens or whatever, so I didn't beat it with as much time in advance as I would have liked, but I ended up beating it the same day that the game was coming out with about 2 hours to spare. And then I decided I wanted to play the DLC also, which then brought me past the point when the game dropped, and I think I ended up starting the game like at midnight or something that day. But I'm bringing that up because by the time I started playing The Last of Us Part 2, I feel like my excitement was kind of at an all-time high, and I kind of forgotten how much I really liked the first game, to the point to where I'm just like, man, like, is this game going to potentially become like my favorite like franchise or whatever? Like I was really hooked into the story and Joel and Ellie and all that stuff. So I really, was excited to play part 2, and it was really fun being able to jump right into it, having 1 and the DLC like fresh, coming just straight into it, like basically essentially having a Naughty Dog Last of Us marathon. But to get into it, like overall, I mean, yeah, I had a tremendous time playing this game. Really, really enjoyed my time with it. Like, was super, sucked in and didn't want it to end. Like most things, I a lot of times I just don't like endings, which we can get into a little bit later. But yeah, it just had gotten to that point where I was just so invested in Joel and Ellie that it was just so fun to be continuing the story and to see what else Naughty Dog had in store for me, like where else this world was going to take me. So my overall experience is I had a tremendous time, which I already said, playing this game. That's going to be my word of the podcast, I think, is tremendous. But yeah, I really enjoyed myself playing the game. Yeah, it just, graphics were great. Almost a little bit jarring going from the DLC and the first game to part 2. It's like, oh, whoa, okay, yeah, we're in 2020 now. All right, same system, but definitely, you could definitely see the strides that have been made since well, not same system, sorry, Last of Us came out on PS3. So anyways, you definitely could see the strides that have taken place since 2013. And yeah, man, like it's just, I was super just into the story, and I really loved the gameplay just in general. Like I get a little annoyed when people talk about, Naughty Dog games and just say, oh, it's just an interactive story or an interactive movie. And it's like, they're not necessarily wrong, but I feel like that makes it sound like the game has no gameplay. And I just don't think that that's true or right or fair.
Right.
Cause yeah, like I really just, yeah, like I get dropped into this world and I get to explore it. And yes, the game is linear, but there is something about The Last of Us Part 2 that felt a little bit more open, a little bit bigger, a little bit like, oh, fuck, I can go here and I can go over here. I'm like, shit, like there is times where one of the reasons why, outside of, at one point I took a trip in the middle of playing, But outside of that, one of the reasons why this game took me so long to beat is I was super OCD. Like sometimes I would literally walk up to the same fucking set of drawers 4 times. Like, oh, did I already go here? Oh, I don't remember. But point being overall is like that was one big thing that I noticed is this game gave me almost kind of like an open world sort of feel with it obviously not being open world. I felt like it gave me this larger playground to play with, and I enjoy that about The Last of Us, like getting to do that. And then yeah, the combat is really, really fun. I mean, I actually sometimes it completely avoid sirens are on my end if those come through. But I really enjoy especially like the up close stuff. Sometimes I even avoid using guns if possible. I would use guns, don't get me wrong, but I mean, yeah, like, so there's a lot of things like the gameplay and all of it, and just, yeah, everything about this game is like the definition of a part 2. It was kind of like, it was bigger. I don't know if I necessarily want to say better. That doesn't mean that I didn't like the game as much as the first, but I just think it just was bigger, and it definitely felt like an evolution from the first game. So I will shut the fuck up now and just say overall, I really enjoyed my time with the game.
I totally agree with that. It was definitely bigger, and I would say just better graphically as well too, obviously for technology reasons. But yeah, also you mentioned the weapons thing. Yeah, I tried to kind of play that way too, as only using my guns unless I was like absolutely necessary. I know Mike played that way too, right?
Well, I definitely played differently than you guys. So I was not actively going in guns blazing, but similar to Bryce, I played through The Last of Us and finished it 8 minutes before the game unlocked. The new one unlocked, by the way. So I the first time I played The Last of Us, I went as stealthy as possible, and anytime I felt like I got spotted too early, I would reload a checkpoint. But coming off of playing Last of Us Part 1 for the second time, and the way I played it this time was like, okay, I'm gonna start stealthy, but if I get caught, no big deal. I've got plenty of resources, and that's kind of the way I played Part 2. I would get as far as I can before getting spotted, but I wasn't scared of getting spotted, so I was being more daring with my stealth activities because I wasn't scared of being spotted.
Okay, yeah, I was more of like trying to be resourceful, and I actually played it as stealthy as possible.
Yeah,
and sometimes I just failed miserably. Sometimes I did pretty good. I didn't restart though checkpoints.
The way that I played it, as I like to call it, was I played like stealth to kill. Like, I mean, I never was trying to avoid fighting people. My plan was to kill everybody and everything, but I played stealth to kill. No. So like, I'm just like, I'm gonna try to be stealth. Yeah.
Yeah. When I get caught, I eventually have to just kill everyone.
Yeah.
No, of course. I mean, of course. But I mean, like, some like even the game says like, oh, in some cases you can avoid interacting with people. I'm like, no, but I want their shit. Like, I'm not letting this person go. I want to know what's in their. I want to know what's in their pockets. So no.
Gotcha.
So that's why I just say. That's why I say stealth to kill. Yeah. That's how I enjoyed playing it. And I mean, I wasn't refusing to use guns or weapons, but I mean, there's something about Naughty Dog and their hand-to-hand combat or their up-close stuff. Like, even in fucking Uncharted, you'll find me sit here and like, I don't give a fuck if you have a gun. I'm going to run up to your ass and pound the fuck out of your face. And I just enjoy doing that in this game too, like either stealthily choking somebody out or, like engaging in, a fist fight of some sort.
Yeah.
Yeah. Their hand-to-hand stuff is their close quarter shit. Like everything is just. It's so good, man.
It feels good. Yeah.
Cool.
All right, I guess we can kind of get started now
with the story.
Yeah. Like, what did you guys think of Jackson? Like, because in the first game you see the dam. But you don't actually see the city until the end when you come over the ridge with Joel and Ellie, and you see it's an actual city. And like my immediate thought at the end of the first game was like, oh man, that would have been cool to be able to explore Jackson. And then you get that option, like that's the first thing you do is they're like, hey, you get to walk around in Jackson. Like, and I was like, oh yes, this is awesome. How did it like live up to anything you might have thought about it beforehand, just seeing it over the crest?
I
thought an hour or two before the game came out.
I thought it was it lived up to what I left off on. I thought so. Like the whole like walking around that whole town was like was amazing. Just seeing everyone doing their thing and going through their life. Like it kind of pretty much is how I pictured it.
Right.
I don't know if I honestly put much thought into it, to be honest with you. Like, I don't know that I ever envisioned what I thought Jackson would be like. But that said, though, like, I mean, I thought it was really cool, and it was obviously like different, because the first game you're basically exploring from abandoned or completely like overrun area of clickers or what have you, the infected, to now all of a sudden you're in this livable city that seems normal. Like there's like crops, there's a bar, there's houses, people doing laundry, like it's it's
playground,
right. And there's definitely a totally different feel from everything that you went through and experienced in the first game. So I mean, yeah, that part I really appreciated. But I mean, yeah, I don't know why that was never something that went through my head, like envisioning what I thought it would be like. But Jackson was really cool.
Yeah, it was one of my favorite parts of the game. Like Rick brings up the playground, and it was like a way they kind of lured you into a false sense of security. Like, oh, check this out, everything's cool. Kids are playing. There's snowball fights. Yeah. There's a ball. They allude to a party that happened the night before where everybody's just having a good old time, and then the shit goes down like immediately following. And it was like, whoa, that's right. This is still The Last of Us. This is not. They're not trying to make it look like oh, everything's fine now. And I didn't expect that going in, but I thought it was really cool to show that side of the way the people are living in Jackson, and then just as matter of fact as they are, like when you go out right away on your first patrol with Dina, it's just like, oh, and here's this building here. We cleared it out last week. There was only a few stragglers. We're good. Like they just talk about it so matter of factly, like they've gotten to the point where, I mean, it's been 30 years since the outbreak. It's just normal. That's the new normal.
Yeah. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because like as you're talking, it sort of brought back something I was thinking while playing the beginning of the game. And honestly, like at that very beginning and going through Jackson and stuff, and we all just said like I knew nothing about this game. I mean, I think I watched one trailer, and it was like the reveal trailer, and that was it. Like the very first time they ever showed anything from the game. And other than that, I knew nothing. I read nothing. So as I'm playing the opening and seeing all this stuff, I was sitting here scratching my head wondering, like, what's the story going to be? Like, I was like, okay, so what's going to happen that's going to turn this into a game? Because I legit had no clue. Like, they had me guessing. Mm-hmm. I really didn't know. I'm like, is suddenly Jackson going to get ransacked? Like, right. I that's how clueless I was. And that was something that was really cool, that they sort of, especially if you were somebody like the three of us were, that successfully avoided any sort of spoiler or any sort of indication of what the story might be. I had no idea where it was going.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
I love that snowball fight, by the way. That was a lot of fun.
Completely random, but really funny. Because again, you forget, like, and this is kind of a theme going on through all the game, even to the end. Like, the way the story is told and the things it has you doing is like, that Ellie's 19. Like, she's not a kid, but she's still a fucking kid. You know what I mean? Like, it's fucking weird. And then you get that sense immediately when her and Dina have the snowball fight with the kids. It's like, oh yeah, they're fucking kids, man. They're still kids. I don't care, 18, 19, 20, they're still fucking kids.
Yeah.
And then when the story starts to happen, you kind of lose track of that. which they do a really good job of kind of subverting that to where you're not constantly thinking like, oh man, they're so young, they shouldn't be having to go through all of this. And it's like, it's similar to what like some games do with like wartime games, like older Call of Duties and Battlefield and stuff like that. Like theoretically, the character that you're controlling is like 18 to 22, because that's like average enlistment in the fucking military is like 18 to 22. But you forget that because you're running around with AC-130s and fucking calling in airstrikes and shooting the bad guys, and you forget that. And I feel like this game did a really good job of like putting that on the back burner. But then when some real heavy shit would go down, you would remember, oh yeah, they're just fucking kids, man. This makes it even rougher.
Yeah. And that was something too that I don't want to say it was jarring, because I don't think that it was. I actually think they did a pretty good job, going straight from part 1 into part 2. At first, Ellie caught me a little bit off guard because I was used to, like how she was in the first game. But then I actually think they did a really good job of still no, this is still Ellie. Like, she's a few years older.
Yeah.
Obviously she's a little bit more adult, but like I didn't feel like all of a sudden I was playing a stranger. It still felt like I was playing Ellie, and obviously some of the flashbacks helped with that too. Yeah, like I think they did a really good job of kind of seamlessly transitioning Ellie into being, a couple years older and being, like a late teen.
Right. More of an adult.
more
and less of a child.
Adult, yeah. But I mean, yeah, and less of a child.
Yeah.
Like I'd be lying if I said I didn't miss some of like just that child delight that she had, in the first game, childlike delight, where, in this game she's definitely a little bit more broken and finding herself.
Yeah, for sure. Did you, the first time you guys like played as Abby, which is like, we should have seen this fucking coming, because it's amazing at foreshadowing, but when you're kind of just stuck in it and playing it, you don't notice until the shit happens. You're like, oh yeah, well, they showed me that this was going to be a thing, and I just didn't accept it at that point. Because I think we had even talked about it, Bryce, after the first time we played as Abby, and I don't remember if it was you or Dan, but somebody brought up, was like, oh, do you think you play as her again? And I remember going, oh no, that's not going to happen. That was just to further the story. That's not going to happen again.
See, I kind of thought you would, but I mean, I guess I'm kind of jumping ahead here. I mean, I kind of figured like, oh, there's a new character, we're going to start playing as her now, and kind of going back and forth just to see like how they're going to meet up, which they do, but I just thought it was going to be a little bit longer than what I thought it was going to be. That, before what happens,
I think honestly, after she kills Joel, I think, so prior to that, when I'm playing with her, like I didn't know what she was going to be. Like before I find out that that's what's really happening, I'm like, oh, okay, well, all right. Like, I don't know, maybe somehow this is the story. Maybe like this is some girl that they take in, and it's just a new character that they're introducing, and it's somebody that we're gonna play with occasionally. Then once Joel gets killed, right after that, I think my first thought was, oh, I think they just like my initial thought was, I thought that maybe they use that as like a storytelling device of like, let's really fuck with the person playing, and let's make them play as the character that is going to ultimately kill, who some do or some don't call the hero of the game, which, whatever. But anyways, like, who people generally, I think, love Joel. I love Joel. So let's make them suffer and play. And so I thought it was done at that point. I'm like, okay, that's why they had us do that. Because I remember one of the first things I said when that happened, because I was fucking pissed, I was just like, they even had us fucking play as her. Like, what the fuck? And I'm like, and they helped her. I was so... And then I'm like, that's probably why they did it, though. They wanted to get that reaction out of me. So I'd be lying if I sat here and said, like, oh, yeah, I knew later on, especially after that point. I thought it was done at that point. I thought, like, okay, that's why they did it. Now it's done. Now Ellie's going to, seek revenge.
Yeah.
Right.
That scene where Joel gets murdered is the first in a... I won't say long, but it's the first in a few experiences in the game where I say the exact same fucking line as the character in the game. Like when she does it, I at the same exact time in the same tone as Ellie, I go, "I'm gonna fucking kill you," and I was like, "Oh my god, that was amazing."
Yeah, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, I kind of thought the same thing too, Bryce. Where like, before I knew like the whole Joel dying part where that happened, like I figured she was gonna get recruited with them and she was gonna be a part of them, and we would just like switch back and forth. But yeah, after that happened, I was just so floored by what happened. Like it didn't even dawn on me that I would play her again.
Yeah,
You know,
I
was just
I didn't
so
see it
pissed.
as a possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, they won't. There's no way. There's no fucking way. Like, especially after that scene, there's no way.
Yeah, my exact thought was like, I can't wait to fucking shoot you in the face. That was my thought. That was my thought.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was probably everybody's thought. So, I mean, yeah, how do you guys want to tackle this? Like, so from this point out, like, do we talk about now how we felt about playing? You know, like how you felt. Like, do we fast forward to when you find out and discover, like, oh, we are going to play as Abby again? Like, do you want to touch on that? Is there stuff before that you want to talk about, or let's just go?
Well, I mean, after he dies, I mean, we go through the mourning process. You know, where we walk. You know, we're at his gravesite. You know, and then we kind of walk around and we go to his house, and then we kind of figure out like, all right, you know, we have to go find this person. And, you know, the game pretty much just starts from there, you know? So
there's when you walk through this house, there's more foreshadowing, by the way. The pamphlet from the fucking museum in the first flashback you play is in his room. You could pick it up and look at it. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. And you don't know it till you get to the museum later. But yeah, like it's just all these small details of like, we're going to sprinkle this in here and sprinkle that in there. And it's not necessarily because we're leaving you breadcrumbs to lead you down a trail. Well, of course, Joel would keep the fucking pamphlet from the museum. Like, why wouldn't he? Like, or you know what? Like, it's just like little details of where you get inside of a character's psyche. And it's like, of course he would take something from this trip he had with Ellie. Of course he would. Why wouldn't he?
Right. Absolutely.
But yeah, do you want to go right into the Abby stuff then? And we could do that, and we can come back around to anything we feel pertinent later if you want.
I mean, because we're already kind of going down that road, so
yeah.
Who wants to go first?
I will. So when the confrontation happens and she pops up in the theater, I was like, everybody says this game's 30 hours long. I'm only like at the 15-hour mark. What the hell? I didn't even like assume that there was going to be more. I was like, oh man, I must have missed a lot. I was angry at myself because I thought I missed, 15 hours worth of content. And the funniest thing about that is that time when you're Ellie and you're walking through the back of the theater to get to the front, I was walking around and I was looking at the layout and I look back at Alexis and I go, oh no. And she goes, what? I go, there's going to be a fight here. There's going to be a fucking big fucking either firefight or battle here. Look at the way this shit is laid out. And I started running around and sliding under shit and hopping over things like, oh God, there's going to be a fucking battle here. And then when you walk out and the gunshots happen and Abby's there and I was like, oh fuck, that fight's happening right now. And then it cuts to you playing as young Abby. And I was like, wait, what the fuck? And then when I realized what was happening, I got upset and I turned the game off. I was like, no, I don't want to do this right now. I don't know if this is going to be extended or if this is just giving us insight into her for now and then we go back to the theater. But it's 1 o'clock in the morning and I don't want to fucking play as this bitch. I'm turning it off. So I turned it off and I sat here and I fucking stared at my TV for about 5 minutes. And I was like, I gotta know. And I turned it back on and played through that flashback and started day one as Abby. And then that when Seattle day one popped up, I was like, oh no.
Yeah. I think
that's why it's only 15 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, I think at that point we were all fucking hoping that, oh yeah, we're just playing a quick Abby flashback before we get back to this confrontation.
Right.
But yeah, then Seattle Day One pops up, and even then, I think I still, not to hijack this, but even then, I think I still held out some hope. I was like, oh, okay. But then I'm like, wait a minute, why am I collecting like a skill tree thing?
Yeah.
Why am I collecting
that's what I was
coins? I'm like,
Yep.
son of a bitch.
Yeah, like so that was my initial thought of like, I can't fucking do this right now. Like, I just watched Jesse and Tommy get shot in presumably what is the face, for
Yeah.
Tommy. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, and you see him get shot in the face, and then like I'm like and I'm like, oh, and Dina's in the back all fucking pregnant and sick. Like, I can't right now. But I ended up doing it, and I went through that whole flashback, and then that was like the okay, cool, I see where you're going, okay. And then when it says Seattle Day One, and you wake up as Abby, and I was like, what the fuck? And I'm walking through the stadium, and I get through the stadium, and I get out, and I do that first like firefight where you get saved by the other WLFs that are out there.
Mm-hmm.
You get to the gas station, and then the other guys show up and everything. And I'm glad I did that much, because it didn't make me feel better about playing as her, but like having a fun like chase like that where you're shooting people off a fucking horseback,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're holed up in this fucking gas station. It's like, okay, this is fun. Like, I know a lot of people talk about how dark and how much despair you feel in this game, which is all there. But at the end of the day, like, the gameplay of this game is fun. And it definitely took the edge off. It definitely took the edge off of that realization that I'm going to have to play 15 hours as fucking Abby. And I don't think I have a choice in this. And it took the edge off of me being angry. And I was like, okay, at the very least, I'm going to enjoy playing the game, even if I don't enjoy what they're trying to tell me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I was, once that happened, I'm like, okay, flashback. I'm like, that's not Ellie. What's this going on? What's happening? And then it slowly like started registering in my brain, like, oh God, this is Abby. And then I did the tutorial. I'm like, cause I was like, all right, I'll get this done. Same thing. Like, and then we can cut back to where we're at. And that didn't happen. So I pretty much
cut back and kill this.
So I pretty much did the same thing, and like I put my controller down, I exited my room, and I literally just walked around like, no, fuck this. No. I was so pissed. But eventually, yes, I eventually did come back and continued playing the game, because I bought the game and I'm not gonna stop playing it just because I don't like what's happening. And sure enough, yeah, I mean, I continued playing it. But yeah, I was pretty upset. It was weird, but with the direction they were taking Abby in and the direction they were taking us in, was trying to see the two sides of these characters.
Yeah.
And which, you know, I feel like you kind of really, I mean, I don't play as much video games as you do, but as you guys do, but like, I kind of feel like I don't really see it that much. Like, the only game I can remember doing something like that was, I think Metal Gear Solid 2 comes to mind, because, you know, you start off as Raiden, or you end up playing as Raiden. So
and you only play as Raiden the entire game.
Exactly. So like when I played that, I was like, what the fuck's going on? Like, why can't I play as Snake? And then, you know, I enjoyed the game. 2 is great, but yeah, I don't see that in video games as much, maybe, because I know you've mentioned, like, I think Halo did something like that.
Yeah, Halo 2 does something similar, but it doesn't wait till you're halfway through the game to do it. It does it after the first, like, you do 2 missions, and then the third mission you play as Covenant Arbiter. But you're not really the villain. He's been exiled from the Covenant. Like, he's been kicked out and stripped of all his ranking in their military or whatever. So it's not even like you're playing the bad guy. You're just not playing as Master Chief. And I say bad guy in quotes here, obviously, because Naughty Dog goes out of their way to make you see that there's so many, like, there's no black and white in that world.
There isn't. Yeah.
Period.
It's all,
they go out of their way to do. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, it's all just perspective and people trying to survive this apocalypse, this plague.
Right.
So, even when I first started playing as Abby, I remember one of the first things I said was like, "There is no way they're going to make me feel anything for this person at all,
Right.
none whatsoever." And
with your arms folded,
exactly,
fucking
with my hater pants on and everything, and and sure enough, the more I started playing with her, I still didn't like her, but what kind of slowly humanized her for me was, and it was just such a small little trait that they put on her was her fear of heights. I know I'm jumping forward a lot, but like that part, it's like not only that, like her slowly showing also compassion for those two people, Lev and
Yara,
yeah, and like that too, like and then I even caught myself thinking like, no, I'm not gonna feel this for her, fuck that. But it like she went kind of slowly won me over.
What the hell just came out of you just now, Rick? That was really fun.
How was that transition for you?
What's that?
I'm sorry, was that Mike? Did you ask me how the transition was for me?
Yeah. How was that transition for you, like jumping into you playing as Abby?
So, I mean, I touched on it a little bit already, where I was just kind of in denial about it. I don't think I stopped out of frustration. I think I stopped because it just got to a point where it was late, and I'm like, I have to get up kind of early tomorrow. I probably should just stop here. But I was pissed about it, honestly. Like, I was fucking mad about it. I'm just like, I don't want to do this. Like, my attitude towards the game changed. It honestly did, because like, and I was going to touch about this a little bit later, but I'm going to do it now, and then we can go into it further, I guess, when we get to that. But thinking about it now in hindsight, and this is still pretty fresh for me, I honestly think one of my favorite parts, if not my favorite part of the whole game, was exploring downtown Seattle. Just Ellie.
Oh, dude, so good.
I think that might be my favorite part of the whole game, because like at that point too, I think that's when I started talking to you, Mike, and just like Dan and everybody that had been playing it, Rick, all you guys. Mm-hmm. And I think it was then when I said like, man, I feel like I'm getting such a Uncharted sort of feel right here. Like, I like the exploring, and like I'm not having to kill somebody at every turn. Like, granted, yes, like there was obviously the infected were there and in downtown, but there's a lot of parts where you're just kind of like, you had this sort of sense of adventure that was happening, like you do with Drake and Sully and stuff, or whoever he's with at the moment, where like you're going into these places that seem maybe haven't been walked into for quite a bit of time, and discovering things that were left behind, and reading certain things. So anyways, I'm trying to remember why I fell back onto that, but why did I bring that up? Yeah, that was one of my favorite parts of the game. And so you kind of get through doing all that, or no, it's way past that. But anyways, why did I bring that up? That's going to drive me crazy. But anyways, I think, this is why I brought it up, because I couldn't wait to pick up the controller again to play. Like, I was having so much fun as Ellie and Dina, and exploring and seeing what I was going to uncover next, that once I found out that I was going to be playing as Abby, it didn't make me want to not play the game anymore. But all of a sudden I was like, oh yeah, I guess I have Last of Us 2 to play, and I'm at this part that I'm not really that excited about. And like, I even was like, I don't give a fuck if you die right now. Like, I got a little reckless, and I'm just like, even though it really doesn't do anything for me, because I'm not going to progress, I'm not going to get to the part of playing Ellie again, which is what I wanted so desperately, unless I actually do well with Abby. But at first, I honestly was like, yeah, fucking die. I don't care. I don't give a shit.
You know what I mean? It was cathartic.
Yeah,
definitely.
I told you guys this, but like I was like, I'm gonna stand here and let them shoot me in the face, and I laughed.
I
And
did that
I
too.
said to myself, this is never gonna get old. This is never gonna get old.
Never
And
does.
it didn't get old. It lost its charm, but it didn't get old. And even up to when you finally get back to the theater, I was like, I'm just gonna stand in front of Ellie and let her fucking shotgun her in the face, because why not?
yeah. Yeah, man, I definitely like, so I mean, obviously, like I love the game, still wanted to play the game, but
Yeah.
it really bummed me out, like that all of a sudden I just felt like I was at this part that I wasn't that excited about playing. And I really was in this mode of like, I get back to Ellie, get back to Ellie, get back to Ellie, you know, like just fucking get back to Ellie. Like I want to be done controlling this bitch. So that's how I felt about the transition.
Yeah. So you brought up downtown Seattle, and there are so many fucking amazing moments in downtown Seattle, from little things like, oh, I can throw this extension cord over the fence, and oh yeah, I gotta break this window, and I can run it through here. Little things like that, all the way to like the big moment where she's playing guitar in the music store for Dina, and I think the awesome thing, again, I'm gonna give so much praise to Naughty Dog. That's completely missable. That is 100% completely missable. You don't have to go there. You don't have to do that. You could there might be people who played this game who never see that. And it's a bummer if they don't, because it's one of the most endearing and humanizing moments in the entire video game. When she plays "Take on Me" on the guitar in the music store, it's insane. It's so good.
Yeah, that part of the music store was great. I went around in that music store everywhere just to see if I could find any records or anything like familiar, you know, bands and everything like that. What's that?
Pearl Jam poster.
Oh yeah, like that's the one thing that I saw was the Pearl Jam poster, which I later find out through Kind of Funny that was one of the songs that is the song that Joel sang.
Yeah,
They're singing in the credits. Yeah.
So yeah, like I thought that was kind of cool. Like again, I was looking like kind of like with Bryce, I was just going around and exploring and checking for those special details, you know. But that's part where she does play "Take on Me" was a great. She did a good job. I know Ashley Johnson is a singer herself, so like she's really good.
Dude, it was awesome. And like at that point, like I said, I'm very much, you know, like I don't know if this is spoilers or anything for what anyone's gonna think my opinion is, but I'm very much team Ellie and team Joel. You know, so she's when she is even singing that song, and I know Dina's there, and I know like they've got this relationship and stuff that's unfolding and evolving or whatever. It's still very new to me. So to me, even when she's singing that song in such a kind of emotional way, I'm thinking about the pain that she's probably still feeling about Joel. Like it's so shitty. Like Joel's death is so shitty. Like you think about everything those two went through to get to where they were, and then she fucking watches him die, and now she is on this path to seek revenge. And just like the whole time, like in my head, I'm just like, she's not, maybe it's a combination of the two, and she's kind of singing that to be cute in front of Dina or to Dina, but in my head I'm just like, there's a lot of emotion that's coming out that it's just about Joel too, you know, like, and it kind of got me on that level too.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's such a good sequence, man, and like just everything in downtown Seattle, man. The bank and finding Drake's ring in the safety deposit box, and
that was a nice touch.
all the little things. Like I figured they would do like an open segment like they did in Uncharted 4 and like they did in Lost Legacy, because like they've gotten really good at doing that. So I was like, well, I'm sure this will happen. I didn't expect it to be the first 10 hours of the video game where I was just wandering around downtown Seattle looking at everything. I didn't expect it to be that quick. That stuff in downtown Seattle was the stuff that stretched the most gameplay. Like I played this game over the course of like 5 days. I started it Thursday night and I finished it on Monday morning. And I put 26 hours total, I think, into the game. And I would say a good third of that is probably in downtown Seattle, and leading all the way up to the end of day one for Ellie. I spent so much time in Seattle that I forgot that at the beginning it said Seattle day one, implying there was going to be more days. So when Seattle day two happened, I was like, oh yeah, okay.
No, totally. And like for me too, and the more I'm thinking about it now, that is my favorite part of the game, I think, honestly. Like I really enjoyed that part. And it made you wonder if, you brought up about how soon or how early that happened in the game. It made me wonder, like, oh, like, is this how the whole game's going to be? Because, like, I was down. I'm like, if I get to get dropped off in a lot of areas and just kind of openly explore it like this, and you do to an extent, but it definitely gets a little bit more linear, for sure, than it is there. And there's a lot of little things that I feel like they introduce in that section that actually didn't get used very much in the game. Like the whole being able, like the cable stuff, you brought that up, and like you're able to climb and swing to different things. Like that mechanic isn't very heavily used in the game. Like it's there, but when it got introduced, I'm like, oh, maybe this is going to be something that we're really going to use quite a bit.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I'm not complaining, but it's just something that I noticed. But you brought up about forgetting that, Seattle day two. I think when I saw that, and I think I blame Twitch for this. Like some people would be streaming the game that I follow and it would say Seattle day two. And that gave me the impression, I'm like, oh, well, if I missed something, which I don't think I did, but if I missed something, oh, cool, I'll come back to this area at some point. Or if there was ever a part in downtown Seattle that I couldn't get to, I'm like, oh, well, maybe I get to come to this like in day two or something. But it was never like that. You're in different areas the whole time, But I think that openness of the game gave me this feeling that I'm going to be able to run back to that area if I wanted to, as well as explore this new area that's now been opened up to me. But it never quite turned out that way.
Nope. And then when you switch to Abby, going back to that real quick, I was like, please don't give me a fucking open world segment with her. I can't do it. And I was glad that they didn't like put that on you like that.
Yeah, for sure. So
how did you feel about like the introduction of the Seraphites? Because at first I was like, well, this is why there's just more. It's just a different faction of people to kill. And then when it switched over to Abby, I was like, oh, okay, so they created this third faction because there's not going to be a bunch of people from Jackson for you to murder as Abby. So they need something other than infected for her to be fighting against. And like that's the way I saw it until the end of day one as Abby when you befriend the two outcasts. But like at first I was just like, well, they don't need to be here. Why are they even here? Did you guys get that same kind of feeling, or am I off base?
I don't think you're off base. I don't know that I felt like, why are they here? I mean, I assume they were probably there for a reason, or it kind of made sense to me that there would be other little groups, I guess, that there wouldn't just be this one harmonious thing. So, but I didn't know how much role that they were going to play. I will say, like, the first time you come upon them, and unless I'm mixing them up, I don't think that I am, but the whole whistling thing, I was like, that fucking make me that would make me so nervous. I'm just like, okay, wait a minute, you're whistling. Like, does that mean you could hear me or see me, or where the fuck is that coming from? Because I feel like you're right on top of me, but I don't see you yet. And that drove me crazy.
Yeah, I really didn't like them. Like the whistling thing was annoying to me. It did its job. It scared me every time I heard it, but at the same time, like I fucking hated it. I think their story or how they, integrated them with the game, like I think it felt seamless to me. I didn't think it was like. I mean, I can see where you're coming from, Mike, and I could totally understand that as well too. But for me, playing the game, like I didn't really feel that way. Like here's more people to shoot. Like I didn't think about that.
I guess the main reason why it felt so jarring was because I just got done spending so much time roaming around downtown Seattle. And then you get to the theater, and then the first thing, well, it's not the first thing, but quickly after you're heading up to Hillcrest, like you come into contact with them, and it's like, oh, why are they here? And then, again, realizing that I'm barely a third of the way through the game, it just felt like I had spent so much more time in that game because of that downtown Seattle area. And it kind of really, it didn't mess up or mess with the pacing of the story or anything for me like that. Like, it, not in a negative way, but it definitely reminded me after I kept running into them, oh yeah, this is a long fucking game. This is going to be a long ass game. I can feel it.
Yeah.
Well, and then I before we come across them, like they're alluded to in a lot of little notes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
What was the what did they call them? Yeah, another.
Stars.
No, but there's that other name.
Scars,
that's what it was. Yeah, because I keep calling them scars, and I remember you just kept correcting me, Mike.
Yeah, I kept correcting you.
Because it was basically the wolves called them the scars, right?
Yeah.
And then they refer to themselves as the Seraphites.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. With the when she gets caught and like she's freed by
Yara and Lev.
Yes. Like I kind of figured once they added them into the mix, it was just gonna make the story even longer, and we're gonna still have to wait longer before we get to that conclusion of what happens. So as much as I was kind of like upset, at the same time, like I really dug their characters a lot, to the point where
me too, man.
I really actually like their characters more than Abby.
I like Yara and Lev a lot.
And
that's not shocking to me.
Because like, I just thought that their backstory and everything was really good, and kind of also gives you the perspective of what's going on with the Seraphites, and like how they operate, and pretty much don't give a shit and kill everybody.
When you have that interaction, and they at first, like, Abby's not trying to save anybody, she's trying to free herself. But then when they cut her down, because Yara says, yo, she saved, and I was like, oh, they're trying to show that she still has some kind of honor, but she doesn't. She was just trying to free herself. Like, that was just a happy coincidence that she saved that girl. And then when you help them get to that trailer, and you put them in the trailer, and then you leave and you finish day one by getting to the aquarium, I was like, they literally just put this in here to try and make you see that she still has some kind of honor or humanity, because they saved her, so she's going to save them. Mm-hmm. And I was really upset, like, at the storytelling. I was like, man, fuck you, Naughty Dog. You're not going to force me to, because at the end of day one, I was still firmly anti-Abby. And I'm like, you're not going to force me to fucking like her just because she helped these random two people.
Yeah. Same.
But I started day two right away. And day two is her waking up from that dream, and then you going back to save them. And I was like, okay, it wasn't just here's a couple of hours of you and these characters to try and make you feel like she's got some sense of honor and humanity. She actually does still, because now you're going back when that's not what her goal is. She's putting her goals aside because she can't just let those kids die. And that was the first point where I was like, okay, I don't like you, but okay. And I had several moments like that throughout the second half of the back half of that game, where I was like, okay, I still don't like you,
That's
Well,
funny.
Okay.
That's funny because I've kind of like saw that too. Like they're trying to make me like her by her feeling bad for these people. Like I'm not gonna like you, Abby. Like I'm not.
Right.
You know. And then yeah, as it goes on, like you know, that's probably why I like those two characters more than I did with Abby. But yeah, but
Yeah,
I mean,
I like
it's a
them.
slow progression for me. It took me a long time before I can
Yeah.
tolerate Abby.
Yeah, definitely. Bryce, I don't feel like you ever tolerated her.
I was just gonna say, like, so I don't want to sugarcoat it because they keep saying that, like, so. I mean, I guess let's just get into it because I'm looking at the
Yeah,
time and there's still plenty of time. But I'm just gonna get into it. So here's my problem, all right? And you guys already kind of said it, but it's just like I feel like that whole Abby, all the Abby stuff, it felt like Naughty Dog and I know what they did, and this isn't me shitting on the story, but I'm just telling you how it made me feel. It felt like that they gave me something and they said, you're gonna eat this and you're gonna fucking like it. And right then I just immediately get defiant. I'm like, no, stop. You know what I mean? And that's not to say, as I'm watching her story play out, it's not to say that I can't appreciate her story, that I can't see that she has humanity, that I can't see that she, you know, means well for the most part and is a nice person. And in a lot of ways you could almost say this whole fucking thing that happens is almost in some ways like a giant misunderstanding, you know, in a way, you know, her ending up killing Joel, you know, Joel, like I know I have a different perspective than a lot of people. I feel like even down to, you know, Joel killing her dad when we find out that that's her dad. But my problem is despite all that, even though she could show that she could be likable, and even though I know a lot of people can say this, and I totally get it, where it's like, but if you played the first game as Abby and the roles were switched, you'd feel the same way about Ellie. And I'd say, true. That's very true, and that's totally fair.
True, but I don't.
but I don't. And here's the problem, and this is why it doesn't matter to me, and I can't. You know, that's why, like, I know what Rick is talking about, and Mike, I think you watched it too, and I watched the kind of funny thing that had Ashley Johnson, Troy Baker, and what's his name? Why am I blanking on
Neil
it?
Druckmann. Neil Druckmann.
I watched that too. Well, and then I also watched their separate review with Blessing and Tim and Andy and all them. And like at some points, like Blessing said, like by the time this is over. And maybe you guys feel this way too. I don't know. But by the time this is over, I liked Abby more than I liked Ellie. And I'm like, that's fine. That's fine. Like that's fine if that's how you feel. But my problem is, I'll put it with us, okay? If, I don't know, like, if somebody murdered either one of you two, all right? And then I was forced to hang out with that murderer, or somehow like I you know, get to see their side of things. It doesn't matter. I don't care if that person donates to charity. I don't care if he saved a puppy. At the end of the day, they killed my friends. You know what I mean? Like, they killed you, Mike. They killed you, Rick. Like, you're going to have a hard time getting me to flip some sort of a switch. And so that's why it really kind of, at the end of it, sort of just felt like, you know, they really just kind of wanted to be like, you're going to eat this and you're going to like this, and we're going to try to make you like Abby. And I can appreciate their effort. And I know they turned a lot of people. And I'm not even going to say that, you know, like, I think Abby's a piece of shit and I can't understand her story and see how she could be likable. But that's why I have a hard time turning a corner, because no matter what, she fucking killed Joel. And Joel's number one to me, and Ellie's number one to me, and it's just like, I'm not going to befriend the person that murdered you, Mike. Like, I don't know that I'm going to have a change of heart and be like, oh, I kind of understand it. So yeah, like, I'm definitely somebody, and maybe a few weeks from now it'll be different, but I'm definitely one of those people that's still very much on the kind of fuck Abby train. Maybe the fuck Abby stuff gets a little bit more toned down, because like I said, I can see that you could be a good person. Like, I can get that, but like that's hard for me. You know, like, don't show me that side after she already kicked me in the dick. You know what I mean? It's just like, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, it's so hard. And then here's the other thing, and I'm just gonna go off and say it, and I'm jumping around all over the place. Like, you know, like, and I mentioned this to Mike too when I saw this happen. You know, like you get to see like the other side of the coin. You know, the doctor and what's the character's name from the first game, Mike? That like
Marlene.
Marlene. You get to see them talking, and they're talking, and you know, you see Marlene is a little bit more distraught when she's talking to the doctor, but then she's kind of a total bitch to Joel. Like, you know, when you see that side of it, it's like, oh, wait a minute, like, what's this about? And you see that she was reluctant and all this other stuff. And then they cut to the scene where Abby comes in and talks to her dad. And, you know, they have to make her dad look like this biggest saint and he saves the zebra and all this fucking bullshit. But then, you know, Abby comes in and just goes, Dad, if it were me, I'd be okay with it too. And I'm just like, no fucking bullshit. Like, of course you can say that. You can say that when you're standing there.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not you. And here's the part that like I feel like is probably controversial because I feel like most people come around on this. But the thing that I have a problem with, and I understand that you find out later in the game that Ellie actually would have wanted this to be done. But the part that I have a problem with is she wasn't awake. She was never asked. There was never a discussion with Joel or Ellie. They just were gonna fucking do it. And even though after the fact, even Ellie could say, hey, I would have liked for that to happen, that I think is wrong because you're not giving the person the choice. You're just deciding to force a surgery on somebody because it's going to be for the good of humanity. And that's the part that makes me still kind of dislike her dad. It's like, oh, so you're so hell-bent on being the hero and on trying to help the world that you're not even going to give this person the choice. You're not even going to be like, well, let me see how they feel about it. You know, the person, forget Joel. Let me see how like they feel about it too. And then Joel comes in, and in my opinion, from my perspective, having played the game, I don't feel like Joel walked into that room with intentions of, I'm going to kill the fucking doctor. He just wanted to get Ellie. But Abby's father pulls out a fucking knife or scalpel and starts pointing at us and be like, don't come any closer, I'm warning you. In my opinion, not giving Joel any choice. So the reason why I have a hard time turning it around and sympathizing is kind of that. Like, I get that that's her dad and she's upset about it, but I don't necessarily sit here and think that her dad is a good person because I feel like a surgery was being forced onto somebody and that person wasn't given a choice. And maybe that's nitpicky and a little detail, but it's a detail that I'm dying on because that's my
the hill you're dying on for sure.
Yeah, and that's something. It's just that something that just makes me have a hard time being like, oh yeah, well I get it, and her dad died and blah blah blah. It's like, look, I'm not going to say I don't feel sympathy for her. But I know I just said a lot, but that's kind of where I feel, and I'm sure you guys have things to say and can respond, and that's great. But I just want to get that out there. Like, I've heard so many people turn around and be like, "Oh, I liked Abby more," and like I totally get it. And it's just like I just can't get there. I can't get there.
Okay, when you hear Blessing and Greg say, "I liked Abby more at the end than I liked Ellie," no, you didn't. Trying to be, I don't know if it's an outlier or be at the top of this narrative for in 5 years when people come back and be like, you know, I liked that character. They'll be able to be like, well, we said it first. And that's Greg Miller all the fucking time. So I don't put any stock into him or Blessing saying, well, I like her more at the end, because it's them trying to say something controversial and be ahead of the curve. And as far as killing the doctor in the first game, me playing as Joel, when I walked into that operating room, I did not want to kill anybody in that room. I just wanted to get Ellie and get out.
Same.
And when you start walking over to the table, he gets in front of you, and you keep walking, and you take enough time, and people come in, and you get shot, and you die. And I said, okay, then this is what we're doing. And I walk in when it reloads, and I shot him in the head before he could say anything. And the doctors cower, the other two doctors cower in the corner so you don't have to kill them. So I didn't, because that was not my intention. That wasn't my intention going into that room. I get Ellie and I get out. And so, yeah, like I totally understand where you're coming from with that stuff. And yes, at the beginning, Abby, when all this shit goes down, I was like, oh, okay, this makes sense why she wanted to kill Joel. Like, not that I agree with it, but like, yeah, okay, this is good. This is good storytelling. This is a good way to wrap it all the way around. It's a good way to make this game feel like less of a sequel and more of a continuation of the same arc, which I really appreciate, by the way. Like, I like that when books do that. When books get made into movies now, the last book is 2 separate movies instead of just the one, because they want you to feel like there's more to it. And that's something just a short tangent, is I love how it just felt like a continuation of the narrative and not a sequel, if that makes sense.
No,
but
totally.
yeah, man, like, and when you get to that end, like that porch sequence, man, like, we'll get there, but I don't. Yeah, but just to go on what you're saying, like, yeah, she didn't have a choice, and you and I talked about how they make Marlene seem nice and empathetic to the situation with Ellie and Joel, but then when you're playing in the game, she's just a fucking bitch to Joel. And then I said, well, maybe that's her just as quickly as possible so nothing else goes wrong. And you were like, oh yeah, that I could see that too, but still, like, it's the principle of the matter, and I totally agree with you. I didn't come around to liking Abby by any means, but I also didn't see it like they were trying to make me like her. I saw it as, now here's their side of the story, do with it what you will.
Yeah,
right. And that's great, and that probably is what they were doing, but it's hard for me just not to see that they're putting forth every effort to try to, like I said, sure, you're gonna eat it and you're gonna like it. Especially, like, even I go back to it, even that little line of, oh well, Daddy, if it were me, I'd be totally okay. That's just how I say it in my head. I'm like, fuck off. Like, no, like, of course you put that little line in there, like, let's add something else to try to get you to see this side of it, and, like, but for storytelling, I totally get it, and I will not take away from Abby. Like, I totally get why she'd want to kill the person that killed her father. I won't take that away from her, but I'm just saying what I feel, so yeah.
So yeah, I'm in that. I would say I'm in that same camp as you, Bryce. Like, I don't like Abby. I tolerate Abby. I can understand. Also, I can sympathize. I can sympathize where she's coming from, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that I like her.
Yeah.
Because I don't. She killed Joel. So, with that being said, like, yeah, I don't like her, and fuck, man, I lost my train of fucking thought because you guys were going so good. Fuck. But yeah, like, I'm always gonna be Team Ellie and Team Joel for sure, and like, yeah, I fucking lost my train of thought. Go.
I don't think, just real quick, and then I'll shut up. I don't think I've liked two characters more in video games in a really long time. Like, I love Joel and I love Ellie and I love their story, and that's why it's going to be hard to pull me away from it. It's the same thing like Nathan Drake and Sully. Like, there's something about those characters, and it's just, yeah. And then one more thing, and then I know I will shut up. Like, I'll even go as far to say, and this is me skipping ahead a little bit, that, like, I might have even been okay. Well, never mind. Just go ahead.
Okay.
Never mind. Go ahead.
So one of the like you were saying, like, being force fed and making you like her, like, I don't understand how people can like her more than Ellie. I think that's bullshit too. Like, no, I'm never gonna like her.
I have a theory on that I'll get to when you're done.
But like that part where it reminded me of a storyline. And I can't remember which TV show, probably Buffy, but Arrow. It was an Arrow.
Buffy,
No. It was Arrow. It was Arrow. It was Arrow. Because they tried to force you in one, and like, I don't remember which season it was, but there was like a part where you're supposed to like one of the characters, but she killed the person's dad, and yet she's still on the team, and she's trying to. She's going through that same process Abby is going through too as well. And no matter what you do, it's not going to justify anything that you did because you killed that person's father,
Yeah.
And it's funny because it's the same thing with this game and, Ellie killing that person's, or Joel killing that person's father.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's sort of kind of similar to that Arrow storyline. And like, yeah, she's on the team, Team Arrow or whatever eventually, because she goes through the same thing. Well, not exactly the same thing, but she goes through that journey that Abby does. But at the same time, it's like, I'm never going to forget what, you know, what this character did on the show and in the game did, you know, and we're not going to be friends, you know, we'll go our separate ways. And that's, I mean, I know I'm jumping right here towards the end of the game, but you know, we go our separate ways. Like I'll take you down from where you were hanged up from, you know, doesn't change the fact that I'm still angry at you, you know, go live your life. Don't ever let me see you again, because if I see you again, it's not going to end well.
Right.
So that's kind of like what I was going towards.
So my theory on why people claim they like more, it has to do with the storytelling. It has to do, like, everything you're doing with Abby is her redemptive arc, and everything you're doing with Ellie is her descent into fucking madness and despair. So by the end of that game, you get nothing as Ellie, literally nothing. You have nothing. You are at the end of that game where Abby was when she killed Joel with Ellie. You have nothing. And so that's the only reason I can see people saying at the end of the game, I ended up really liking Abby. Well, yes, stupid, because that was the redemptive story arc you got to play through. That wasn't the descent into madness, you idiots. Of course you're going to, if you just take all emotions out of it, and you don't know these characters beforehand, yes, you're going to like Abby more. She saves Lev and Yara. She, instead of fucking stabbing Mel in the face when Mel calls her a piece of shit, she walks away. You go and you try to live on the island. Yara ends up getting it, and that sucked. That was one of like the saddest points of the game for me. There's a moment in the game that if she wouldn't have killed Joel, like you're saying, Bryce, been team Abby, because this was another point where I as the character, when you come over the hill on the island and the city's on fire, and Lev says, "Those are your fucking people," and then Abby says, "You're my people, now let's go." I added some colorful language. I said, "You're my fucking people." And in my head, that's what Abby says, even though I know she doesn't say, "You're my fucking people." She says, "You're my people, now let's go." But yeah, like, and that was like a super fucking powerful moment of that game for the Abby character. And it wasn't until that point, which is right, God, that is the end her arc, essentially. That is the fucking end before you get back to the theater. And that's where I was like, let's get the fuck out of here. And it wasn't like, let's get the fuck out of here so we can be Ellie again. I forgot about that for a second and was like, let's get the fuck out of here. And I really, that to me is like the best like storytelling in that game, is watching that redemptive arc. And whether you come around on her or not, like, I totally get that and understand, because like I said, at the end of the game, I was not on Team Abby whatsoever, but I was closer to it. And on the other side of the coin, by the end of that game, I hated all the decisions Ellie was making. I fucking hated it. Like, they were actively making me angry, and I was like, why? No, just fucking these. And it goes all the way back to the end of day 2. Is it day 2 with, or is it, maybe it's day 3 with Nora in the hospital? That's day 2. Like, they make you fucking hit Nora in the face with the lead pipe. I was like, I don't want to fucking do this. I don't want to do this. And they make you do it. You have to hit that square button and watch Ellie swing this fucking lead pipe at her. And I didn't like it. And right there is where I was like, I'm not digging on these decisions whatsoever anymore. I'm on this ride with you because, yeah, we need some closure, but I am not happy with you right now.
So I have a different stance there, because like, I don't like, I understood it as that part made you feel uncomfortable to do, but to me, Nora just got through saying that, like, yeah, I hear his screams too, and it makes me smile, and I'm like, no, fuck you. So to me, it was completely just. I had no problem with Ellie doing that.
Bryce
You
was
know, so like,
mashing that square button.
fuck yeah, no, dude, fuck yeah. So I didn't know that you actually disagree with her killing her like that. At that point, I'm like, oh, you're gonna taunt somebody that is basically the closest thing to my father. Like, you're gonna taunt his death. No, you're done. You're done.
Okay, and it's
just thought it was
not
brutal.
necessarily. Yeah, it's not necessarily the killing of Nora. It's just the way it happens. I didn't like it.
Just one shot to the face.
That's and it goes. That's like, for me, that kind of goes hand in hand with the next thing I want to talk about with Ellie is like, and it's obvious why she's doing it, but throughout the entire sequences that you're playing as Ellie, she's trying so hard to be like Joel used to be, like all the way down to when you get to the fucking aquarium and she's trying to make Mel and Owen tell her where Abby went. Like, you fucking write this on the map, and if you guys don't write the same shit, like, and it's like, that's not the first time she does something that Joel had alluded to beforehand in the first, where you talk about in the flashbacks in this game, and I totally understand why, but she's just not. It's not her, and that's the entire time I'm doing these things as Ellie. I'm like, this is not you. And like I said, I'm on this train with you, girl, because we need to get our closure with this bitch. But this is not how you should be doing it. Because number one, you're not good at it, and it's making the situation. Number two, it's making the situation worse because you still have your humanity and empathy, and you're feeling like shit for doing this stuff, and you can see it. And you're making me feel like shit for having to do this stuff as you, as the game. And so just, I was not jiving with her tactics whatsoever, but I was still on the ride, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. Rick, you have anything to say?
I remember it was as far as the comparison as I was saying earlier, I just wanted to say that it was an Arrow, it was Black Canary.
Oh, okay.
Because she died, but then like another Black Canary came from like like Earth 2, I think it was, which was more of like her evil version, and she had this whole same kind of redemption arc, but that evil version killed the real Black Canary's father, and so it's kind of but that pissed me off, and that's kind of like how I felt. Like, there's no way I'm ever gonna like this character again. Yeah,
and so like just to like close out what I have to say about quote unquote Team Abby or not, like obviously not, to the point where when the game ends and the credits happen and you get back to the title screen and you see the Catalina Island and the building on Catalina Island that they're talking about.
I think it's
earlier.
Still people have said that, but I think that's still Santa Barbara. I'm pretty sure that's Santa Barbara. I think that's the cell.
Neil Druckmann even said it's Catalina on that kind of funny thing.
It legit looks like the building. Like, I don't know. Whatever. I don't know. That's fine.
I saw that. And I was like, man, fuck you. You got what you wanted. Get the fuck out of here. I was upset at that too. But, again, like I was saying to you guys the other day when we discussed like having this discussion, as I'm not happy for her because her and Lev got to the island and, presumably found what's remaining of the Fireflies. I'm not happy for her by any stretch of the imagination, because Ellie walked away with no fingers and she can't even fucking play guitar. Her girlfriend's gone and took the kid presumably back to Jackson, and now Ellie is just a fucking lone wolf now. And at the end of that game, I was like, she's, I kept repeating, she's only 19 and basically has nothing. And then I thought about, I was like, okay, maybe she's 20 now, because it's been over a year since the confrontation of the theater, because the baby's, obviously about a year old. So it's been over a year. All right, so maybe she's 20, 21. But that's still, like, she's a fucking baby. Like, she has nothing. And this bitch over here is on Catalina Island with the fucking fireflies. Get the fuck out of here. And it made me real mad. And I was real mad at Neil Druckmann for a little while for writing it that way.
The only thing really that really pissed me off was her losing her fingers. Because she has to play guitar. Like, they don't even give her that.
I mean, did you guys at any point think there was going to be a scene after the credits?
No.
I
watched
no,
it, no.
No.
So
I watched all the credits,
like,
but no.
I think I leaned towards there probably wouldn't be one, but I think I was kind of hoping there would be, but I didn't know what it would show. I'm just like, well, it just depends on how they want to end this game. You know, like you see her walking off in the window, you know, in the background, you could see her outside walking away. And I'm like, okay, well, I mean, do they have to do that? I don't know. I was gonna say, do they show her go to Jackson and see Tommy? Like, do we get to see if she finds Dina or not? You know, like I was thinking heavily like how Uncharted 4 ended, and you got to not only have like a post-credit scene, you got to play a post-credit scene. And so I was kind of wondering if there would be something like that. So, I mean, but I feel like it was kind of left open. Like, I know the game ends and you feel like she's left with nothing. And that's very much how it feels. But I mean, I suppose there's also like, well, but we don't know what she walks to next. I mean, she still has Tommy, you know, like she still has Jackson if she wants it. And, you know, it seems like she's probably going off maybe to go find Dina. I don't know.
That's what I would hope. But like, I don't know. I kind of took the symbolism of like there's two moments in the game or right towards the end there where I feel like she's finally just fucking letting go. And when Tara walks away, I was like, okay, that's her letting go of the life she had and could have had if she just wouldn't have went to Santa Barbara. And like that kind of feels like, okay, she's just gonna figure shit out for herself now. But yeah, I don't know. I wasn't expecting like a post-credits thing or anything like that, or like a playable thing or a sequence or anything like that. I like the way the game ended, but I did not like the way the game ends, if that makes any kind of sense whatsoever. And hopefully through the course of listening to what we've said here, people will understand, and you guys can understand what I'm saying. Like, I like the way the game ends, but I don't like it. I don't wanna.
It's the Empire Strikes Back.
The title screen thing changes the game a lot. Like for me, because like I said, I wasn't the only person that thought that, because it is kind of fucked up. Like on Santa Barbara, they show a building that looks just like what you. It looks like that, and so I was like, oh, is that just, you know? Because even like I think even on the Kind of Funny thing, I think on their review, Greg had his ex-wife on, Christine Steimer, who's from What's Good Games, and it was Blessing, and it was Tim, and even Greg said like, no, I think that's Santa Barbara, which is what I thought too. But then, you know, I believed you, and then I also wanted to look it up just to see. And like, it is supposed to be Catalina, and that does make me mad. That makes me mad even more. You know, like, you know, because it's like, because I'm just kind of like, okay, wait a minute, like, because I was kind of like, why would they have that? Even when you're on Santa Barbara, why do they have this building that totally looks like the building that's on Catalina? Why is that on Santa Barbara? Like, why is that there? I've never even seen a building like that at Santa Barbara. Maybe there is one, I don't know. But yeah, that changes things up a little bit for me too. That's kind of fucked up.
I guess like at the end of that, like I said, I wasn't happy for Abby at all, but I was happy for Lev. Even though notoriously playing through that first game, the Fireflies are kind of pieces of shit too. And I think that's the great part about the story between both of these games, is that, hey man, everybody's kind of a piece of shit. There are some people that are, you know, less smelly than others, but we're all kind of pieces of shit in this post-apocalyptic world.
Right.
But yeah, man, like, okay, I want to talk about, unless you guys have anything else like to talk about with like the ending of the game or how you feel. Rick, did you have anything else you want to say about that before I move on to this other thing?
No, I mean, it's a good game, but you know, it's a game that pisses you off, but it's still a good game. Yeah.
And Bryce, how you feeling?
So I like, just to also say what I was going to say earlier as well. I will say I did get to a point with Abby to where I would have been okay, and obviously that's what happened. I would have been fine. I came to terms with if Ellie doesn't kill her. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay. Like I actually was gonna even accept it if even like after Ellie cuts her down and they both get on boats and go their separate ways. I part of me would have been like, if that's the way that they go, I would have been a little bit mad about it, but I think I would have gotten over it. But then when she pictures Joel again and just kind of forces a fight, I know some people kind of lose it for Ellie there at that point, but there's a part of me that still is kind of down for that and found myself still like, I was kind of like, you're not gonna fucking touch me, Abby. Like when you're in that fight, I'm like, I swayed. I'm like, you're not hitting me once. And I made sure, and I beat the fuck out of her, and I enjoyed it. And I'm gonna say why, and it's because the game made me do something that I hated. And the first time that Ellie and Abby get to interact physically, I'm fucking Abby. I'm like, fuck you. I'm like, no. Like there's part of the game. I was like, no. And so even then too, like when like I thought the game was over when they cut back and they're at the house and the baby's JJ's born. Is the assumption there that that's supposed to be JJ's like Jesse Joel basically? That's how
that's what I assume.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So anyways, I was kind of like, are they gonna? Is this over? Like, and some of it was kind of like, you know, when people would be like, "Did you finish it? Did you finish it?" Like that was me in my own head, people knowing where I was in the game, trying to time it out. Also, so I'm kind of like, oh, maybe the game does end right here. And honestly, that would have been a little bit of an unsatisfying ending, but I would have gotten it. You know, like when she is sitting down and holding the baby in that little, I guess in the tractor or whatever the fuck it was outside. I thought that was the end, and
that would have made a lot of sense.
I think I would have been pissed. I would think I would have been kind of mad. I'm like, you mean to tell me I played this whole game for Ellie to want to get revenge for Abby killing Joel, and when they have their confrontation, we don't even get to control Ellie, but she loses, basically.
Yeah.
She loses that fight. I would have been so I think I would have come to terms with it, but I would have been mad. But by the time that Ellie and her are confronting each other, I had gotten to the point where I'm like, both these girls have been through so much that if it came to a point where they both actually like spoke to each other and came to some sort of understanding where like they both understood where each was coming from.
Yeah.
I like, so, and I know that is kind of, that's not what happens, but I know like, you know, Ellie essentially doesn't kill Abby. And so I guess what I'm saying is I'm not mad that that didn't happen. Like, I'm not mad that Ellie didn't ultimately kill Abby. So even though I've sat here and said, fuck Abby, and I was never Team Abby, and I'm still not Team Abby, like, I'm not pissed that Ellie didn't actually get to, you know, murder her. You know, like, because I do think they got to this point where it's just kind of like, you know, fuck, so much has happened. Like, you could barely fucking get up that little step from where people are hanging onto the sand to get to the boat. You know, it's just like, so they got me there, you know, but yeah, so I just wanted to clarify that. Like, you know, like it wasn't like I'm sitting here like, no, that bitch should have died and I'm pissed that she didn't. But at the same time, like, I would have been like, you know, when Abby says things like, you know, like, don't ever let me see you again. I'm like, oh, fuck you. You know, like now you're sitting here and I feel like you've killed Tommy too.
I know.
You killed Jesse.
I know the one that pissed you off the most was let you live and you wasted it.
Yeah, I'm like, fuck you. Oh, thank you so much.
When you got to that, you were so pissed.
Yeah, like, thank you so much for killing fucking Joel and then saying, you know, you wasted the opportunity that I gave to you for letting you and your fucking and Tommy live. Like, shut the fuck up. So anyway, sorry. Go ahead and switch to what you want to switch to. I just want to make it known that I'm not totally heartless, but yeah.
I mean, you're a robot. We remember that's cheesy things. You're a robot, so he'll like that if he listens to this that we mentioned him. So that fight, real quick, was my favorite fight sequence in the game because the entire time I was like, wait a minute. Am I controlling Ellie right here or am I controlling Abby? Like they did a really good job of subverting like who you were controlling in that on the beach. Because like
if I was controlling Abby again, I would have shut the game off. I would have been like, fuck you.
There's a point where Abby has you against the boat and is kicking Ellie. I won't say you because again, and it's choking Ellie, and you're mashing the button, and then I was like, wait a minute, am I mashing the button? Because Ellie's not really moving forward yet as hard as I was mashing that button, and I was like, wait, am I controlling Ellie or am I controlling Abby? And then there's another sequence where the tables are turned and a similar thing happens, and I was like, oh my god, this is like the most engaging thing they've done throughout their tenure as a studio, because I don't know who I'm controlling, and I don't want anybody to fucking win. Because at this point, I wanted to walk away, like we were talking about on the tractor. I would have been okay with that being the end, and I had already, like, that whole time when she's telling stories and the camera pans up to the sunset, I was like, okay, while that's happening, I was like, all right, I can let it go too then. Let's get the fuck out of here again. Like that was like my whole mantra during this game was like, let's get the fuck out of here. This is too much. But I really enjoyed that fight on the beach because I wasn't sure who I was controlling.
I could see that. I mean, I knew I was controlling Ellie, but when you say what you just said, I could see what you mean.
That didn't even cross my mind.
When you have Abby under the water and she's fucking slowly dying, and then Ellie has that quick like flash, and it's like, the way it happens is it's focusing on Abby's face, and then like there's a quick flash, and then you're looking at Ellie, and when it switched to Ellie, I dropped the controller, even though I was mashing square a minute ago. If we're gonna end it, let's fucking end it. I dropped the controller. It was that kind of jarring because you see her face and you see her kind of let go, and it was just really weird. So like it wasn't a point. This was a third point in the game where I felt like I was doing exactly what they wanted me to do. Like it wasn't a line this time. It was an action where I was like, oh God, why are we holding this woman underwater anymore? This is fucking pointless. And then she lets go and you guys take off and everything goes the other way. And then that's when you have the scene I really want to talk about with you guys. And that's the scene on the porch with Joel and Ellie.
Yeah.
And that whole fucking, like, Ashley Johnson and Troy Baker are, I'm not going to call them voice actors. They are amazing actors.
She was in Avengers.
Because you get totally lost. Yeah, I understand that, Rick. And Troy Baker's done some live action shit too. But you see those two
actors.
names and you think voice actors. You think video games. Actors. You think the mocap stuff. But like I cannot stress enough how effective that scene was for me in justifying me dropping the controller and letting go. Like it was like it I felt like I was the one in the game, not like I was the one playing the game. And that's something that Naughty Dog does really well. Bryce, you and I have talked about this throughout the Uncharted series. Rick, we've talked about it throughout the Uncharted series as well, and in the first Last of Us. And I know you and I, Bryce, had a longer discussions about the first Last of Us recently because we both just recently played it. But like, they do such a great job of making you it's not a role playing in a traditional sense, but you feel like it's you you're the one making the decisions. You're the one shaping these characters. And by the end of that game, I felt like, I guess I'm the one that needs to let go of Joel now. And that last scene really helped that. And I got super emotional watching that scene at 2:30 in the morning. And because it really was a letting go of that character and allowing it to be over, you know?
Mm-hmm. Real quick, sorry, is my sound still okay? Because one of my buds just died.
Yeah,
you're fine.
I can hear you.
Okay, I might switch just in case, and then I also, I don't mean to cut this short, but I have to go probably in the next 10 or 15. But yeah, so that scene, what I was really excited to see, especially because, you knew that was obviously that was right after the whole thing in the dance, when Joel tried to come to her help. And at that point, you also saw the part where she's like, I'll go back to Jackson, but we're done. And that was fucking gut wrenching because like my heart is just with Joel. My heart is with Joel so much. And so I'm just like that when she said that to him, and I'm just like, man, and I'm just like, this poor guy, he's just trying to he's just trying to protect you. You know what I mean? He's just trying. You know what I mean? Like he probably thought
Yeah.
he got a second chance at a daughter. Like he's just trying. And so I felt so much for him. You know, when she's giving him the cold shoulder. And so when that scene happened that you're talking about, Mike, I was like, I'm gonna probably get fucked up watching this scene because like, I needed that scene too. And I feel like. I don't know that I'm not saying you have, but I don't know that I've let go of Joel or that I needed that because like I've sorely missed Joel. Like that their dynamic was
mourning and letting go are different things, bro. And I'm
No,
with you. I'm still in mourning over Joel's loss.
Yeah, so I was glad. In fact, if anything, I was a little bit disappointed that we didn't get more from that. That it was still kind of it was good. It was a step in the right direction, but it was a little bit cold. And I guess that's what it needed to be. I guess you'd have to have another scene a little bit more set in the future. But we kind of got that because she was going to watch a movie with Joel when they're exploring on that first outing, talking, and like they were going to have like a
Yeah, we lost it. I mean, you're there. Well, you're still there.
How bad is this audio?
It's fine.
It'll do.
Okay, then I'll just stay. I'll stay on this.
Yeah, it'll
this is the awkward audio, and then Rick, is it fine or should I switch to the AirPods?
No, that's fine. You're good.
Okay. But anyways, as they're doing that first outing, like she, alludes to that she's going to go over to Joel's and they're going to watch a movie. So, I guess we got to see that their relationship, definitely did get better, even though we didn't really get like this scene that really showed it.
Yeah. Like, so the thing about that whole stuff, like, it's the way they wrap everything around. Like, I had the same feeling that I think Greg talks about in the one where he had Druckmann, Johnson, and fucking Baker on, where he says like, that scene at the dance where Ellie basically tells Joel to fuck off again. Like, is that like, I kind of took that as like that's the first time they've talked in 4 years or whatever. And Neil goes, yeah, that's the idea. Like, I won't say a time frame, but that's their first, that in my mind, as I wrote it, that's their first interaction since the hospital flashback. And I was like, fuck, because that's exactly what I felt too. I was like, oh my God, this is like the first time they're talking and she's telling him to basically fuck off. And then you have the closure on the porch, and then you have to go back into your memory, even though it wasn't that long ago. You go back into your memory and realize, she's talking about, oh, I gotta have a movie night with Joel. He loves this. So I'm gonna take this. We're gonna watch this tonight. And there's a sequel, but it's not as like, it's just all this stuff. Like, I'm like, and it made me feel even worse because like, they have that conversation, and then you have the patrol with Dina, where all Ellie's kind of talking about is Joel because Dina keeps pushing it and making sure like they're okay. Are you guys all right? And like, she's like, yeah, we're good. We're gonna have a movie night. And it's like, fuck, man. Like, after everything, they literally just got right with each other.
Yeah.
And 12 hours later, Joel's gone. Essentially.
Right.
And coming to that realization while watching the final cutscenes in that video game, like, that's what made that scene so hard for me to take and not get emotional.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I haven't had a sequence like that in my life where I've been on the outs with somebody and then we're like cool again and then they're gone.
Yeah.
But I can only imagine, man. And I feel like this is as close as I'll ever get probably to having that actually happen to me.
Yeah, for sure. I switched to the AirPods, by the way. I don't know if it sounds any different.
It's fine. It sounds good.
Okay. Yeah, man. It's hard. Like, you don't have a soul if you didn't get emotional during this game. So I'm with you on all that stuff. And I watched that too, Mike. Like, I haven't finished I watched their own review because I wanted to watch that. And then I haven't finished the episode that has Ashley Johnson, Troy, and Druckmann on, but I will. I'm about halfway through. But that's really good stuff too. I mean, that like seeing Troy and Ashley both get emotional, like when they're talking about stuff like in the beginning, it's pretty nuts. Can I just say, I can't picture Troy doing Joel at all though. I'm like, you do the voice of Joel? I'm like, I need to hear, I need to see video, and I know it's out there. I need to see video of you doing that voice. Cause like Ashley Johnson doesn't sound.
Watch the live show.
Yeah, I gotta watch that. Ashley Johnson, like, obviously, like I could hear I could hear Ellie in her, but even when she's talking normally, like it's kind of there. So she puts on a voice too, but like, yeah, it's crazy. I cannot hear Joel at all coming out of him.
Rick, did you fucking lose your shit during that porch scene like Bryce and myself, or are you
it was a very emotional moment, and it was a great scene. It was it was so good.
Yeah,
I was getting fucking emotional over here talking about it. I'm glad we're not on camera.
Yeah, and watching the kind of funny with same thing. Watching them talk about it and get emotional about it too, and how they talked about like the scene when they first when they shot his death, like how emotional they got around it, and it's like these are people that care about the characters, care about what they're doing. And it was great. It's good. Yeah. So I was on the same ride with them,
Well, that, and I looked into it a little bit because I wanted to want to know what they were referring to, because they kept saying Ashley's been through so much. And I guess, like, I don't know all of it. And Mike, you actually might know more, because from what I've read, I guess she dives into it a little bit more on that, like, official podcast thing. But something along the lines of that she lost her dad to cancer when she was like 16 or something like that. Some other stuff. I think there's been some other stuff too, and so that's what Troy was referring to when he said that Ashley's already been through like so much. So
and like nobody was checking on her while we're filming this, and I was like, "What the hell are you guys doing over here?" Like, I just heard that episode, by the way.
Okay.
Of the and she doesn't go super in depth, but she brings up like just basically what you just said, like the on the surface of what kind of gone through. So like before we like get out of here, because I know you got to take off, Bryce, can we just talk about like everybody's performances here? Like Laura Bailey is off the fucking charts as Abby. Whether you like her character or not, Laura Bailey is fucking amazing in everything she does. She's so goddamn good.
That's why I say these are like actors, like people say voice actors. These are fucking actors. You see their booth, or they're acting out in their suits for the mocap, and these people are amazing actors.
The other thing that you would know her from intimately, Bryce, is Uncharted 4. She played Nadine in Uncharted 4.
Ah, okay.
She's Mary Jane.
She's always playing big burly bitches, huh?
No, she plays Mary Jane.
No, she played Mary Jane Watson in the Marvel Spider-Man game, and she's fucking great at that too.
I love her for that.
That does nothing for me. So,
but she's done a lot of stuff, and she's very, very good at it. You need to play Spider.
I know,
man, Bryce. I think you'd really enjoy it. It was on sale recently too.
Okay, maybe one day if it's a Plus game, I'll play it.
Probably might.
Oh, it'll eventually be a.
I think it will be.
But yeah,
too.
man. God, I can't remember his name right now, but the guy that played Isaac, the little bit you see him was like, man, he's just a fucking piece of shit.
Oh, that was
yeah, I know who that is. He's also in what the fuck is that show called on HBO? The Western sci-fi show.
Westworld.
He's in Westworld. Hold on, I got
Jeffrey something, right?
Yeah, it is Jeffrey something. And then we really do have to wrap this up, or you guys can get Jeffrey Wright. Yes. Otherwise, you guys can keep going. So, but yeah.
No. I think unless Rick has more he wants to go on about, I think we're pretty good.
I think we did
throw a shout out to. Yeah, I love the game. Like, to wrap it up, I love the fucking game. I'm okay with Abby. I'm not on Team Abby, but I guess by the end of the game, I'm not really on Team Ellie either. I just feel bad for her. I think that's where I kind of left it. Like, I want to go through it again and platinum it. I know friend of the show, Dan Herman, went through and platinumed it. Colin Moriarty went through and he played it again and platinumed it. And he said, like, I love this game even more after going through it a second time. And I was like, oh man, like that gets me hyped, because like I already love this game. So and him and I generally have similar opinions about games. Like, there's a few outliers where I'm like, you're fucking wrong, bro. But like 90% of the time, I feel exactly the same way he does about games. So I'm really excited to go through, and I just don't know if I'm willing to put myself through that again so quickly.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm surprised Dan did, because that's kind of how I feel. Like, look, I liked the game. I enjoyed my time with the game. So I don't want to say that I didn't like it, but I think I'm still just absorbing all of it. Like I beat it, 3-4 days ago at this point. So I don't know how to feel. Like I enjoyed my time with it. I really liked playing the game. I feel like I don't want to commit to whether or not I liked it because there's certain things that I was just kind of mad about that I'm still just not over. You know what I mean? Like again, the whole Abby section. Like I get it. I appreciate the story, but like I just can't come to terms with like, okay, I just don't know how to
give
feel.
it time.
But I mean, but yeah, like obviously I did like the game. I know I just said I don't know that I want to say that. I obviously did like the game. I guess it's under duress when I say that. You know, like I just
you don't want to give them the satisfaction.
Yeah, like I just don't. And I will say honestly, like I hope there isn't another one. I'm gonna say that wholeheartedly because I don't know what story are they gonna tell me.
Let's not, please, because you and I went into a fucking rant, a half-drunk rant on a podcast you can listen to if you go into our archives, where you and I both say there doesn't need to be another one. You'll fucking ruin the story. And I said this I fucking, like everybody else, I put out a Twitter review and I said for a game I didn't think I needed, I don't know what I would do without it now. And
right.
Like that's really how I feel about part 2. It was like, for a game that I thought I didn't need, I don't know what I would do without it.
Yeah.
It's that fucking, so I don't want another one. And I'll say it again. I don't want another one. Leave it alone. But I'm willing to listen.
I mean, look. Obviously, you know that's where I would be too. But like on paper, I'm like,
yeah.
Look, I don't want to know about Abby's adventures on Catalina, and then like what. I guess it might be kind of interesting to see what happens with Ellie coming up next. But dude, for me, Joel is also the heart and soul of this game. So 3 would definitely have 0 Joel in it whatsoever. So I'm just kind of like, nah. Like I'm good. You told your story. I don't know how to feel about it yet. Like I'm good.
All right.
I'd be down to play as Lev though, and here's some of Lev's stories for going forward.
Then I mean that should be called like.
I really like that character a lot.
Yeah.
The Lev of us.
The Lev of us.
The Lev of us, or the Sarah fights within us, or something like that. I don't know. Yeah.
All right,
Rick,
Bryce.
final thoughts.
I love the game. I love same love-hate relationship, but overall it's a great game.
Okay, so that has been our review of The Last of Us and our first episode in a long time. It wasn't a traditional episode, but we hope you enjoyed it anyways. I don't have to thank anybody for watching us on Twitch because we weren't on Twitch, but for anybody that's listening to this and supporting us and has supported us, we appreciate you and thank you for doing that. And you can find us on someshitwelike.com. And this will probably be this can just be one video put up on YouTube, right?
Yep.
Okay. This will be up on the website on someshitwelike.com. It'll be on pretty much all podcast services. Like we always say, if there's one that we aren't on that you want us to be on, let us know and we'll get you up there. And otherwise you could watch/listen to your TV if you want to, or on your phone if you want to watch us on YouTube too. And that's how you find us.
So until next time.
That was some shit we like. You guys are my fucking people.